Virtue, as we have seen, consists of two kinds, intellectual virtue and moral virtue. Intellectual virtue, or excellence, owes its origin and development chiefly to teaching, and for that reason requires experience and time. Moral virtue, on the other hand, is formed by habit, ethos, and its name, ethica, is therefore derived by a slight variation from ethos. This shows too that none of the moral virtues is implanted in us by nature, for nothing which exists by nature can be changed by habit. For example, it is impossible for a stone which has a natural downward movement to become habituated to moving upward, even if one should try 10,000 times to inculcate the habit by throwing it in the air. Nor can fire be made to move downward, nor can the direction of any nature-given tendency be changed by habituation. Thus, the virtues are implanted in us neither by nature nor contrary to nature. We are by nature equipped with the ability to receive them, and habit brings this ability to completion and fulfillment. This is the introduction to the second book in Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. In it, the brightest philosopher of all time actually does his job for once and tells us how to live. This is a book about friendship, justice, pleasure, pain, and happiness. But is it worth reading? I'm Michael. Let's find out together. Our world is dying. Can you feel it? I can feel it. And we're all scrambling to save our favorite parts of the empire before the rot finally consumes it. Simone and Malcolm Collins are trying to save their clan and its technophilic pluralist culture. Some try to preserve their religions or their power. Well, this is the first book in my little Dark Age backpack. If you tried to sum up the basic outlook of those of us who still wish to survive, you would end up with some vague, shaky form of vitalism. Now I think that won't work without Aristotle, or ultimately even without Ayn Rand. My job is to bring in the kind of thinking that makes vitalism and happiness possible. And it starts right here, in the Nicomachean Ethics, written some 300 years before Christ. If Aristotle lived today, he would be a writer or a podcaster, and he'd likely stay nowhere near our academia. To the ancient Greeks, being a philosopher simply meant that you liked to think. Now sure, Pythagoras had a cult, Plato attempted to take over a city-state and got enslaved for it like a loser, but to Aristotle philosophy is not a game, but a practical necessity for rulers and commoners alike, and the fundamental part of being human. Take an excerpt from chapter 4 of book 2, where he describes the process of becoming virtuous through repeated action, and scorns its opposite, which is feckless waffling. Our assertion is that a man becomes just by performing just acts, and self-controlled by performing acts of self-control is correct. Without performing them, nobody could even be on the way to becoming good. Yet most men do not perform such acts, but by taking refuge in argument, they think that they are engaged in philosophy, and that they will become good in this way. In so doing, they act like sick men who listen attentively to what the doctor says, but fail to do any of the things he prescribes. That kind of philosophical activity will not bring health to the soul any more than this sort of treatment will produce a healthy body. In his judgment and advice, Aristotle doesn't let you get away with anything, and he is totally free of all the silly excuses we made up for ourselves later. The universe is what it is. We do have free will. We are capable of rational judgment, and that judgment results in choices that are objectively good or bad for us. Firm but fair. And when we're not living through some tragedy out of our control, these rational choices result in enduring, deep personal happiness, flourishing, eudaimonia. Aristotle's ethics is a code for living well on this earth. Now, is happiness the same as pleasure? Glad you asked. Read the book, that's the final chapter. In fact, here's a quick rundown of all the sections. The book covers happiness or eudaimonia, forming virtue through habit, choice and responsibility, listing the moral virtues, justice, listing the rational virtues, willpower, friendship, which is 2 chapters because it's important, and pleasure. And all of it is put in ordinary Greek, so we have it translated in plain English. This is a code for living, and it's rooted in practical reality. Our philosophers have a lot to learn. Hogenová, na tebe mluvím. My jsme se potkali v Praze. Vás a celou vaši fenomenologii spláchneme do propadliště dějin. Konec konců, naštěstí už se stalo. Notice the open, ambitious attitude here. I think the Greek sense of life shines best through Aristotle's passage about pride. He describes the proud man, the high-minded man, and says an earned sense of true pride is a morally good thing, the crown of all the virtues. He contrasts it with vanity and arrogance, but also with selling yourself short, both of which are silly. Now, I gutted this passage down to an absolute minimum, and it still came out as the longest, so please bear with me here. If we are to examine the qualities of the high-minded man one by one, we should see the utter absurdity of thinking of a high-minded man as being anything but good. If he were base, he would not even deserve honor, for honor is the prize of excellence and virtue, and it is reserved as tribute to the good. High-mindedness thus is the crown, as it were, of the virtues. It magnifies them, and it cannot exist without them. Therefore, it is hard to be truly high-minded, and, in fact, impossible, without goodness and nobility. A high-minded man, as we have stated, is concerned primarily with honors, but he will of course also have a moderate attitude toward wealth, power, and every manner of good and bad luck that may befall him. He will not be overjoyed when his luck is good, nor will bad luck be very painful to him, for even toward honor, his attitude is that it is not of the greatest moment. Power and wealth are desirable for the honor they bring. At any rate, those who have them wish to gain honor through them. But a person who attaches little importance even to honor will also attach little importance to power and wealth. As a result, he is regarded as haughty. We skip the paragraph, and this passage goes on for 2 more pages, including the high-minded man's relations to others. I had to cut out the paragraph on page 265 describing the friendship between happy men. These short excerpts also don't include the reasoning Aristotle lays out before he arrives at these conclusions. Every passage is supported with a long chain of reasoning, and while he doesn't offer a formal proof of the whole ethical system as such, he is the father of logic, and he certainly doesn't ask his students to take him on faith. In fact, a great side effect I noticed when reading the book is that it can serve as a training ground for healthy reasoning. The habit of thinking shown is based on, first, direct observation of reality, of stringing together a long chain of concrete examples, and then of stating a fundamental question, listing the different possible answers to that question, confronting each of these possibilities with the observation of reality, and then selecting the answer which seems best supported. Now, a lot of the conclusions in the book seem obvious thanks to this, but they're not. It's just that he's a really good writer and the reasoning is well supported. Does that sound useful? Just read the bloody book. I am probably more biased in favor of the Nicomachean Ethics than with Homer's Iliad, but it's tough not to be excited about this guy. What he touches turns to gold. Studies under Plato, rips him to shreds, across domains. Basically invents the laws of logic and a secular theory of concepts, of aesthetics, of biology. Tutors Alexander, known world conquered. We call him the Great now. Gets dug up later by Avicenna and Averroes. Boom, Islamic Golden Age. Gets dug up by St. Thomas Aquinas, which results in Thomism, which results in scholasticism and trying to put forth arguments in favor of the existence of God. Now, that fails. So in you have the Italian Renaissance, and the Enlightenment, and the Industrial Revolution, and the world turns upside down. He did it. And he doesn't think you should just do whatever because we no longer ask the gods what to do. This is a strong, fully secular code of ethics, and we lost it, along with a lot of our classical heritage. No wonder my fellow countrymen feel so despotic and nihilistic. Well, I don't, and it's sunny outside and I'm going for a swim. Oi, you can't swim here. A kid died, I'm sorry. Now, regardless of what Charles Stew might say, Aristotle is not a man of our time, and he is not a fan of democracy either. This book centers on personal ethics, but it does have political implications, and it is followed by his other writing on politics. In a famous passage, he divides all forms of government into 3 different categories. This may be useful today. There are 3 true forms of constitution and an equal number of perversions, corruptions as it were, from these. The true constitutions are kingship, aristocracy, and in 3rd place, a constitution based on property qualification, to which the description democratic seems appropriate, though most people are used to calling it constitutional government. Of these 3, kingship is the best and democracy is the worst. The perversion of kingship is tyranny. Both are forms of one-man rule, but the difference between them is very considerable. A tyrant looks out for his own advantage, whereas a king looks out for the advantage of his subjects. For only a person who is self-sufficient and superior to his subjects in all good things can be a king. A person such as that needs nothing in addition to what he has, and will, therefore, not look to his own advantage, but to that of the subjects. If he is not a man of this sort, he will be king in name and only, merely by virtue of the lot. Tyranny is the exact opposite of kingship, in that the tyrant pursues his own good. In the case of tyranny, it is even more obvious that it is the worst form of government than in the case of democracy, which is still, after all, a constitutional form of government. What is opposite to the best is the worst. This is by no means the only passage where Aristotle goes against our modern taste. In another place, he justifies that men be the head of households in certain domains so long as they earn it, and justifies slavery for certain people. Now, thankfully, today, we know that having a slave class is immoral, and we would never do it. Or would we? My personal favorite is a passage where Aristotle calmly and clearly explains that we would of course never blame anybody for becoming ugly through no fault of their own, but, and I quote, "We do blame those who become ugly through lack of exercise and through taking no care of their person." Now, most of us would at least pretend today that that's all fine, but should we? How's it working out for us? Now, of course, he doesn't mean to offend us with all this stuff. If he does, well, it is the mark of an educated person to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. To close this off, my favorite passage comes at the end of Book 2, where he excludes certain actions from his doctrine of the golden mean. Famously, he recommends cultivating virtues in the right amount, set out somewhere between the 2 extremes. So, for example, he sees courage as a mean between cowardice and recklessness, or he sees friendliness as a mean between hostility and flattery. Now, he excludes justice from this, and also some actions mentioned in the excerpt. Not every action nor every emotion admits of a mean. There are some actions and emotions whose very names connote baseness, e.g. spite, shamelessness, envy, and among actions, adultery, theft, and murder. These and similar emotions and actions imply by their very names that they are bad. It is not their excess nor their deficiency which is called bad. It is therefore impossible ever to do right in performing them. To perform them is always to do wrong. In cases of this sort, let us say adultery, rightness and wrongness do not depend on committing it with the right woman at the right time and in the right manner, but the mere fact of committing such actions at all is to do wrong. Now, what makes this fun to an engineer is that Aristotle is obviously thinking of geometry when he's constructing the Golden Mean. He studied geometry under Plato. Let no one ignorant of geometry enter the academy. Later, he uses the science of mathematics as a template to formulate the laws of logic and of proper definition. Still later, he goes to the island of Lesbos and basically founds the science of biology. I mean, I'd go study the fauna of Lesbos for 2 years. Strictly for science, of course. No, this whole terrifying split between STEM or natural sciences and the humanities is silly and dangerous, and it frankly makes us inferior. Both sides have deep contempt for each other, some of it very well justified, but they should both be looking at the different sides of the same thing. I hope we come to our senses once the universities are defeated. It should still happen within my lifetime, inshallah. So, is the Nicomachean Ethics worth reading? In Dante's words, Aristotle is the master of those who know. It reads very smoothly, it's fun, energetic, and genuinely made my life better over the years. Aristotle helps us neurotic thinkers with clarity, making prudent decisions, and gives us a solid outside perspective. What more do you want? Thank you for watching the second episode. Next time, we'll move on to Euripides' drama of Helen. If you'd rather start from the beginning, go on to Homer's Iliad, or to any other video on the channel, and then turn me off, pick up a book, and live your life.